we talked about how we use symmetric encryption, like AES, to encrypt messages and send them back and forth. And we also talked about how that requires some shared secret information, a key, and we use public key cryptography, like RSA or Diffie-Hellman, to actually establish that shared key. And we also talked about how we use public key cryptography as well for integrity and authentication. So, public key cryptography is a very important part of the story. And we talked about how it's based off of hard math problems. These math problems have to be very hard for computers to solve. And problems like factoring are very hard for our current computers.
Mm-hmm.
However, there's this new form of computing that's being developed called quantum computing. And quantum computing can actually solve some of these problems easily that are very hard for our current computers.
So these quantum computers are essentially supercomputers that can do things our current computers can't.
The interesting thing about quantum computing is that it really is a completely different way to do computing. So it's not even that they're just more powerful innately, it's just that they have a completely different way of doing computation, and we can actually use that to solve these problems. So classical computers are based off of classical physics, whereas quantum computers are based off of quantum physics. So a classical computer has a fundamental unit called a bit, and that bit could be either 0 or 1. But quantum computers, their fundamental unit is something called a qubit or quantum bit.
Mm-hmm.
And that can actually be any linear combination of 0 and 1, which means it's not necessarily 0 or 1, it can be somewhere in between. That's called a superposition. There's a lot of different quantum processes that we can actually harness to solve these problems in a completely new way. And problems like factoring that we use for our current public key cryptography will actually be able to break them once we have a powerful enough quantum computer developed.
So how long do we actually have before these computers start breaking all the security that we currently have
How
in
long
place?
before the end of the world?
Exactly. How long before Terminators?
Definitely good news in both that right now we have the algorithms. We actually know how to break our cryptography, but we don't actually have the machines to run the algorithms are. So there are very different estimates as to when quantum computers will be able to break our current cryptography. There's a lot of variables at play, and one is that quantum computing is just this new technology that we don't quite understand how to use it in the best way. I would say 10 years is a good estimate. Some people say as long as 30 years until it breaks it. So it is a long time from now. But there's a lot of reasons that we should already be thinking about it. So the first reason is we want to have our secure cryptography in place before quantum computers. So we want to fix this problem before it's a problem. Another is that we have to come up with new cryptography, because clearly the cryptography we have right now isn't sufficient. So we have to come up with this new cryptography, implement it everywhere before the quantum threat comes.